Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elliot Kallen, CEO of Prosperity Financial Group, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Meet the Expert. We have a theme focus today: real estate. Making money in real estate, buying a home, financing a home, commercial, residential, second homes, whatever it is. If you've got questions about real estate, we're going to answer them, and we're going to provide resources for you as well. So I'm excited about this. We've got 3 experts on. If you need to reach us, and I would love to have a conversation with you, I'm Elliot, that's ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. My direct line is 925-314-8503. And the website is prosperityfinancialgroup.com. So let me begin by welcoming our 3 guests. We've got 2 Janices, Janice Colby, Janice Nugent, and Derrick Beckwith. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Elliot.
Thank you, Elliot.
So Janice Colby, let me start with you if I could. And really, you're with Keller Williams and you're local, and Janice Nugent, she's local too. And Derrick is a national guy on the real estate investment trust world. Let's start with buying a home. And we'll talk about financing and how that happens. And we're going to go back and forth. And Derrick, we're going to introduce you as we go along, because you're going to teach people how to make money in the real estate investment trust world. And don't worry if you don't know what that is. We use it when we build portfolios, and you'll know what it is before you go get your next cup of coffee. So Janice Colby, let's start a little bit about you. There are a million realtors, it seems like, in every county, and everybody's looking for good realtors, solid realtors, people that really know what they're talking about, people that have their best interest at heart and not just the interest of the transaction. So, and I also learned after speaking with you, Janice, that you've got a niche, and your niche is your strength. So tell us a little bit about your niche and then what you can tell buyers before I get to my first question.
Well, Elliot, I get a lot of people who have lost a family member, might be a parent, might be a spouse, and one of the issues they have is that now they need to sell the house. And they have no idea where to start. So often I get calls of, Janice, what do we do? How do we go ahead and sell this property and get it moved along so that we can go ahead and settle the estate? And I've had a lot of families come to me who are out of state. I've had people who are as local as my own neighborhood, and I walk them through that process. Fortunately, I have 22 years of experience as a leading agent in Keller Williams in Danville. And so I have a reputation throughout the community as someone who can get it done and get it done with the least amount of stress possible.
Great. So in your niche is dealing with people who have died. I mean, you deal with lots of people, I know that.
Right.
You have to, but the people that died and now the next generation is taking over the home, that's your niche.
Right.
You feel better than anybody else out there, and that's terrific. And so the people that are listening to this, do they need to hire an attorney to get to you? Do they need to have a trust to get to you? Or can they just say, help me with mom's house?
No, they don't need to have anything to get to me. They can start with me, because what I will do is, I've done so many of these, I can walk them through the process. If they need an attorney, we'll be able to ascertain that fairly quickly. If the parents or the spouse have had a will or a trust, then we're more than likely in much better shape. But I've handled probate cases. Whatever resource we might need, I have in my toolkit, which helps the individuals move on. So they don't need anything. All they need to do is give me a call, and I will be able to walk them through it. Because, Elliot, this is usually one of the most stressful times in a person's life. They're grieving. They've just lost a loved one. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. And I'm a good place to start, because I have a very soft touch, and I can go ahead and guide them through the process.
Great. So we'll get back to that. I want to get into the financing of homes and then buying your home, your first home, your second home, whatever it might be.
Okay.
But let me just tell you some of the news of the day that really affects the mortgage rates. And it's going to be the news of the entire year, and that's inflation. So the Federal Reserve is tightening credit, and they're going to tighten credit throughout the year. Whether we get 3 interest rate hikes or 5 interest rates hikes, they're going to tighten credit. And for that world, that means that the mortgage rates that we've seen will probably be the lowest we've ever seen in our lifetime, and they'll begin to get to what's back to normal. And normal is like 5 or 6%, when that's considered exorbitant today. But that's really what it's been since. If you take out the 1970s and early 80s, that would be really normal. But I just did my house not too long ago. It's in the twos. I know a lot of people in the twos. It's hard to make money, but that's going to happen. And the other that's the driver on mortgage rates is inflation. So we just finished a year at pushing 7% inflation in December, 6% overall. It's amazing what's going on. I'm giving raises out of 8 and 9 and 10% to my employees, not because I've got the cash flow to do it, but because that's what the demand is, if they want to stay in front of inflation. And from the employment market, we just had a mediocre, disappointing jobs report from ADP. There are 10 million job openings right now in the United States, which means it's such a competitive market that for me to hire, I've got to fuel inflation. I've got to be part of that on there. And not living in a world where January was a terrible stock market return, we have to build and build, and we're fueling and making it harder to get mortgages, even though we're paying more money so they can buy a home that much faster. So it's a funny thing that we're kind of messed up here and backwards. But Janice Nugent, and Janice is a mortgage broker, and she's a certified mortgage specialist here locally, and we're in San Ramon. So Janice, what are you seeing in the mortgage market? And how, if somebody's looking to buy their home, how do they? There's so many convolutions on how to make this thing work. What do you recommend?
Thanks, Elliot. I appreciate you talking about to the people you care about so much. As a mortgage planner, it's really important to make sure that somebody's mortgage is in line with their financial goals now, but what that also looks like up the road, right? So that's why we plan. For first timers, it is tough, right? It is extremely tough. But, you also have the rental market where, the rental market has increased over 12% since last year. So because of inflation, you're also paying higher rent fees. So the question is, do you want to pay your landlord's mortgage for another 5 or 10 years? Or do you want to start the process of looking? And if people are willing to learn and to be educated, that's what I love to do. Educate them on when they can buy. It may not even be now, but sometimes we work with clients 6 months, 12 months down the road to get them ready. And, there's nothing better than handing somebody the keys to their first home. They understand what it's like tax-wise for them. They understand where they're going to save money. They understand where their interest rate's going to be. They understand that they may need gift funds from mom and dad or grandparents. They may need to do something outside the box. I currently have four clients. Both are the two sets of married people. They're going to buy a duplex together, so they can buy a multi-unit property, have their own space, and they can afford it. So you got to just think sometimes outside the box.
Great. Well, I want to get back before I ask Janice the next question, and I'll get back to you, Derrick, in a moment. Let's assume we're not buying our first home. Let's make me the target market, if I could. All right, which means I'm buying the next home. I'm getting to a bigger home. I'm going to a smaller home. I'm going to get back to Janice Colby on how to do that in a moment. But from a financing standpoint, I have to be pre-financed, pre-approved. Is that correct now?
That's correct. Yeah. In order for, a real estate agent, somebody like Janice Colby to even take you out to look, they want that pre-approval, right? You want to have all your ducks in a row. So when you go out there, you not only know what you could afford, but we also know on the back end, if we have to sell your house first, or if we can use something like bridge loans where you don't have to sell your house first. You can look for something and secure it and then put your house on the market. So it depends on the income and strategy that we use, but there is a way to do that.
And do we finance 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, 25 years? Do we look at everything, or are we just looking at the traditional 30-year mortgage?
No, when interest rates were as low as, in the twos, it didn't really make sense to look at adjustable loans. But now that interest rates are going up, we definitely look at adjustable loans. And most importantly, people aren't going to be in their house for 30 years. They're most likely going to be in their house for maybe 10 years. So that brings some options about mortgage planning, right? What happens with their children? Do they have to move into a better school district when their kids are ready to go to school? What is their college savings plans that they have? What are their retirement plans? So we work all that into the conversation, and that could be overwhelming for people, but the beauty is it brings up conversation. It brings up thought solid thought that they have to have in buying that house, right? And knowing they're going to move from maybe their first home into their next home. And it really starts with that mortgage planning questionnaire.
Okay, so let me go back to Janice Colby on this one. And I'm going to be the target market if I could. So I own a home here in Lafayette, and I want to upgrade or I want to downgrade, one of the two. So represent me for a moment on both sides of this coin, if you would, Janice. I'm the seller. Walk me through the process of what's now going to happen. I've been living in this home for some time. It's obviously got some paint chips, some carpeting that is a little bit dirty. We walk on it. We live here.
Great.
It's not a perfect home here. And of course, it's still a buyer's market here in Northern California, although I do believe we are slowly making a transition. It's a seller's market. I do believe we're slowly making a transition to the buyer's market. And traditionally, that's gone every 7 years. I know that from buyers to sellers, we've had the longest bull run for sellers that I've ever seen in my life. And that's inevitably going to end here with higher interest rates. But walk me through me as the seller. And then for my next house, me as the buyer, upgrading or downgrading, larger or smaller, doesn't really matter because probably the situation is the same. Janice, would you mind doing that?
Absolutely. Elliot, the first thing we would do is we would get together in person. I'd love to chat with you and your spouse since there's a spouse involved. And what I want to do is make sure I understand what your goals are. What kind of home do you want? What are the things you're looking for? And the very first question I'm going to ask you is, have you been approved with a lender? And that is critical because the more you have gone through the approval process, even if possible, getting underwriter approval, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to understand how to get you into contract on a new home. Now, if we are going to be selling your house, I'll talk to you about walking through your house, looking at all the advantages and how I can optimize the sale of that house so that you can get the most money out of that. In some cases, it may need a little refreshing. So if you need refreshing in the house, if you need paint, if you need carpet cleaning, I have all those resources. But better than that, at Keller Williams, we have a program called Keller Offers, where we can actually finance the improvements to your house to really make the house shine so you can get the most money. Now, if you don't want to do any of that, great, we can work with that as well. But this program allows you to get an interest-free loan on the house to do the improvements. Then once the house is sold, that gets repaid. Also, if you're looking to move into a property, one of the things we will do is try to get you in as quickly as possible, but it's also possible that you might need to hang out in your house for a little while. I'm very successful at getting rent backs for my sellers, so that's really a standard we're seeing in the market right now, because sellers might sell, but they don't have a place to go. So we will make sure that that transition is smooth so that you don't have to move twice.
So if I'm house rich, but cash poor,
Right.
I can get an interest-free loan and redo my house?
Yes.
Get it ready to sell?
Yes. Including staging.
Well, that's great. I haven't heard of somebody doing that. So I hope everybody who's listening to this has also heard that too. All right. So we brought Derrick on because besides your primary home, and we work in the world of investments, we do that. People invest with us. They trust us with their money. We are the trusted advisor. Again, at Elliot, ELLIOT at prosperityfinancialgroup.com or 925-314-8503 is my direct line. And my phone is actually ringing behind me, which is really good because that means people are interested in this topic. But in portfolios, I can't put your primary home in a portfolio. That's where you live. That's where you pay. That's where you raise your children. Maybe that's where you grow old and whatever happens to you. But we want to include real estate as a sector besides your primary home in investing. And so that opens up the world of REITs, real estate investment trust. And Derrick is with the Easterly Asset Management out of Boston, and their specialty are public real estate investment trusts. So Derrick, enlighten us. What is that? What's the difference between private and public? And why am I using you at all in my portfolios?
Yeah, so thank you, Elliot. Publicly traded REITs, real simply, is they're companies and corporations that own and operate commercial real estate across a number of different subsectors. So one of the biggest benefits that we see and historically that have played out for folks within their portfolio and their asset allocation, the three biggest benefits for investing in real estate are going to be diversification. So, it's going to be more diversified versus your traditional equities and fixed income holdings. Secondly, is going to be income. And so these real estate investment trusts produce income for clients. And then lastly, total return. I was looking at the numbers last night. Historically, the market, broadly speaking, has returned about 10.5% per year for investors over the past 25 years. And that number jumps up to 11% per year over the last 35. So within a client's asset allocation or portfolio mix, we think those benefits are something that really provide a good return stream and income to eventually help clients meet their ultimate goals and needs, whichever they may be. And with you at Prosperity, you have those conversations with clients to figure that out.
What's the difference between public REITs and private REITs?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is going to be the REITs that we invest in, they trade on stock exchanges across the globe. So just like a stock, right? So one of the biggest benefits of that is you can just click it and purchase it, and you get instant diversification immediately in an intraday swing. Now, in the private market space, that's a little different. So there's going to be a little lag time with regards to purchasing and selling. And then the other benefit of being listed is that performance-wise, because you have Wall Street oversight, analyst oversight, and things like that, they've historically outperformed the private space because of some of those reasons.
So if I was buying my primary home, I'm using these two ladies over here.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm really investing in real estate outside of a second or third rental property or fourth, whatever my business is, I want REITs. Why do I want a REIT over rental property, or I don't? They're totally different.
So I think it really depends on your time frame and with regards to liquidity. So like I said, one of the benefits of being a publicly traded REIT, you're not going to have the wind up to purchase and to sell. It's not like you can sell a rental property tomorrow, right? So one of the reasons that folks invest in publicly traded REITs is that not only are you going to get exposure to real estate, but there's traditional real estate. Most folks think of industrial real estate, office, residential, what have you. The space itself is very dynamic. And what I mean by that is outside of those traditional sectors, there's subsectors that most folks don't even have exposure to or even know about. So think things like data centers or cell towers or life science and lab space. And so by investing in a strategy like ours or in the public real estate market space, it's going to allow you to get access in an allocation to all these different property types, many of which have their own diversification benefits within an overall real estate portfolio. And I guess lastly, the other thing with the liquidity provision is if you want to sell, you can sell today and there's no lag time. So it gives you a little bit more optionality with regards to building out an overall wealth plan for a client, depending on what exactly their goals and needs are going to be moving forward.
Okay, let me go. That's great, Derrick. And we're going to be circling back to you to understand where the trends are and how inflation affects this and stock market gyrations, what happens to the portfolio during stock market gyrations, which doesn't affect the private market because there's no daily liquidity, but does affect the public market. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, you will in a few minutes on that. But I want to go back to Janice Nugent, because if you're going back to your primary home, I brought up rental real estate, different ways of financing it. How do I finance creatively? How do I expand into the California rental market? And maybe I'm too late on that. I'll go back to Janice Colby on that. Maybe I should have bought 20 years ago, but not now. Maybe it's just too high, or maybe I'm just too old, one of the two. But and there are so many ways to invest in rental markets, from financing and the 0 money down to 5% money down to VAs to 3% down to and the traditional 80-20. So now I want to buy. I want to expand. I'm not a first home buyer. Maybe I am still, because it doesn't really matter. Give me, what am I looking at as a buyer? Before I go to Janice Colby and say, Janice, buy this for me. I have to make sure my money's all lined up. And maybe there's family money, maybe there's no family money. Maybe my grandfather's going to give me a loan, or maybe you just give me a gift. What do we do here?
Well, if you consider when someone's buying their first home, they have a lot of options, right? As a first-time buyer, you may be able to do something with it little as 5% down, right? Now, compare that to investment property. If you want to buy investment property, you're going to need to at least do 20 to 25% down. So the question would be, how long do you want to live in your home? Let's say you have owned this home before and you want to buy another property. If you want to upgrade, or maybe you want to downsize, you want to find something that's best for you for your needs now, you have the option of holding on to the property you have and make that your first investment property, because then you're buying your another primary residence. You have a load of options there. You can go up to your 5% down. You can have your 80-10-10, right? And then that property that you already know the bones of it, you already know the basis of what it needs up the road, that could become your rental property. So what we talk about is, what does that property look like? How much could you get for rent for that property per month? And then we look to see what your current mortgage is to make sure that you've got some passive income. But that is the perfect way for somebody to become an investor, because they are going to depart their residence and move into a new place for themselves, leaving this place, back where everything, right? You basically know all the expenses, what your mortgage payment is, what the property taxes are. That's an easy way for you to become an instant investor, because you're going to buy the next property and depart that one. Does that make sense?
Should I do no money down? The old no money down things? Can we do that anymore? Or because I knew Vegas blew up on that, Phoenix blew up. I mean, one of Derrick's big competitor seems to own all of Phoenix.
The only way that you can do no money down now is if you are a vet and you have a VA loan. That is 100% financing. Other than that, you're going to put some skin in the game. And that's why you're seeing so much equity right now in people buying. People are coming in with significant down payments. So you can put as little as 5% down. Most people put in 10%. They can do an 80% first, a 10% equity line, and then come in with 10%. And then, the good news is, if you're going to be a new landlord, we get to use that new rent that you're getting on the house that you're departing. We get to count that in your debt to income ratio, which is really helpful.
Okay. So Janice Colby, I want to go back to what you started with, which was talking about selling mom and dad's house.
Right.
And maybe it's in a trust and maybe it's not. And maybe I have an attorney, maybe I'm the executor, or my brother's the executor if it's my family, and it's a grieving moment, or it's such a difficult time because I've got to move mom to a nursing home. And I could speak to that personally because we had to do that. My mother and father made us promise that we would never move them to a nursing home. And I remember that conversation. Please never move us to a nursing home. And then as my dad got sick, and he died in a hospital, she had said, I can't take care of you anymore. I need to move you to someplace. And she bawled her eyes out because she had to break her own promise. It was a horrible time. And then he died within days of that. But then she came out to visit me when my twins were 1 and had a stroke while we were driving into San Francisco.
Oh my God.
And this poor lady who had already gone through so much, she was an Auschwitz survivor. We tried in-home nursing and a part of the brain had died. It was horrible. And eventually we moved her to a nursing home and then a different nursing home. And we were just besides ourselves. And then we had to find a realtor. And this was all the way across the country. So it wasn't just here down the street, because I'm an East Coaster. You could tell because I still say coffee talk. But we had to do that. And that was complicated. We had to find somebody we trusted. You can see how hard this is because, some Californians, their mom and dad live in Walnut Creek and they've lived there for 40 years, or Sacramento or LA. But some of them live like me in New Jersey, outside the New York area. And it's just as complicated. We don't know what to do. So help me and walk me through this, because we were all beside ourselves and she was alive still. Right. And eventually died in that nursing home. But we had to sell that house, create a liquidity event, and do all of that. So walk me through this.
Okay. Well, the first thing we do is we talk about how the family wants to transfer the house. In other words, if they're looking at selling this property, do they want to fix it up? Do they want to sell it as is? I've had family members who said, oh my gosh, I'd be so embarrassed to sell mom and dad's house in the state that it's in. We want to completely remodel it. And so I handled a $250,000 remodel for this family. They were out of state and they insisted they wanted this house to sell for top dollar, and they wanted to go ahead and completely remodel it. Conversely, I have handled homes that the family has said, oh my gosh, Janice, we don't have the bandwidth to do anything. We can't possibly go ahead and, there's mom's stuff is in the house. We don't want to handle it. I had one set of sisters who, when I walked into the house, the parents had been a hoarder, and we had to go ahead and bring in an organizing company to work with the family to go through all the belongings, because there was literally no place to sit in the house. There were stacks of things everywhere. So I've handled all of that. And it just depends on what we're walking into, Elliot. It depends on, is the house already emptied? Have you taken care of mom's stuff? What I would advise is the first thing to do is the family go in, take everything out of the house that they personally want. Everything after that, I can handle with my resources, either through an estate sale, or we can go ahead and just have everything donated and send the donation forms to the family. Then we look at the house and we say, okay, what kind of shape is this house in? I strongly recommend that anytime we sell, even in a seller's market, that we get inspections, so a buyer knows what they're looking at from the get-go. And then after that, we say, okay, here's what we can get for the house in its current condition. Here's what we can get for the house in an updated condition. What are your goals? What would you like to do? And as I said, I've handled everything from a $250,000 remodel to, I had one client, I completely remodeled the kitchen. They lived in Connecticut. They never even came to California to see what we did. I sent pictures, updating them all along the way. I got them $95,000 above what we had completed in a remodel. So there are a lot of ways to go about it, and each situation is unique and has to be handled on an individual basis. And I've done it pretty much all. So whatever we need to do, Elliot, we can do that, but it's an individual situation.
So at my most difficult time, or somebody's most difficult time, that's what you do. We call that behavioral finance. We'll call that behavioral real estate.
Yep, I'm part rabbi, part priest, part marriage counselor, part grief counselor. I'm all of that.
Great. You're a Costco apple pie. I like that.
There we go.
Well, we're talking about real estate here. And again, I'm Elliot Kallen. And so if you need to reach us, it's 925-314-8503. That's my direct line. It's Elliot, ELLIOT, at Prosperity Financial Group. And it's prosperityfinancialgroup.com. So I want to kind of shift into making money again on real estate. And that's what this is all about, whether it's my primary home, getting the best mortgage. That's what we've done with Janice and Janice here. Let me go back to the trust world, actually the real estate investment trust world, if I could. So Derrick is with us, and he's from Easterly Asset Management out of Boston. So Derrick, I know Boston you're in Denver, which I think is getting snowed on today.
Yes.
And I'm looking outside my building here, which is a beautiful building here in San Ramon, California. And half of it is empty. I think the landlord corrected me. It's only 42% empty.
Yeah.
Not 50. He kind of taken back when I said it's half empty. But you go up and down 680, 880, which is our big highways, 580, a lot of empty buildings. And so if I'm going to invest in a real estate investment trust world, which is what you're doing, is a collection of real estate. Man, I don't want things like office buildings. I don't want strip malls. I want all these things that never go out of business, the evergreens, the nursing homes, the sanitariums, I don't really understand data centers, but I guess that's what happens with Google and Amazon and Facebook, is they use these data centers and they're not going away. And I guess cell towers are really good until we come up with no need to have cell towers. And I don't know the new technology on my 5G phone and things like that. But how do I make sure what you're buying from me is something that's not going to be 40, 50% empty in years to come?
Yeah, I think that's, like any other market, like I said before, it's a very dynamic and diversified market. And within the real estate space, there are going to be winners and losers. And some of these trends have been turbocharged since COVID. So the Amazon effect is something that we saw at our firm, years ago, and that just got kind of put on steroids here during the pandemic, right? So like you said, are you going to want to own traditional shopping malls and retail? Probably not, because brick and mortar are going to be impacted negatively because of that. On the flip side, there's industrial REITs, which are last mile distribution, and those are the folks in which you get a package on your door. The majority of those packages go through one of those industrial REITs facilities, and so their business has skyrocketed because of that. Like you said, in the data center space, so not a lot of folks have access or exposure to data centers naturally, but think of like the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, what have you. There's only 6 publicly traded data center companies out there today. And so what that means is with data and data consumption growing at about a 25 to 35% continually in the growth rate, which was the latest estimate from Cisco, there are secular demand for certain types of REITs out there, while on the flip side, as you said, there's going to be REITs that are going to continue to be negatively impacted, and they're going to be the REITs that you do not want to own. And so, shameless plug, you're going to want a manager that understands the market and can do the underlying due diligence for you and for your clients to figure out which REITs are going to be the ones in which you're going to want to own for the next 5 to 7 years, and which are going to be the best ones to avoid. Because like you said, it is a broad, diversified market, and there are going to be winners and losers this year and for years to come.
So years ago, people always said you should be investing in real estate trusts that buy apartment buildings because they never are empty. You should be investing in real estate investment trusts that do student housing because there's 100% demand for student housing all the time. Is that still a trend out there? Are you finding trends like that helpful?
Yeah, on the apartment front, one of the biggest challenges within the apartment space is there's a geographical aspect as well. So if you're in a secondary market, say if you're looking at apartments in, no harm to Detroit, but Detroit is net migration out of the state. So would you want to own apartments or buildings in that type of environment? Probably not. Fast forward and look at like a Miami, or if you look at a Scottsdale, Phoenix, or Austin, Texas. The opposite may be true. It really comes down to a company by company level. And that's where you need somebody that can do the due diligence and sharpen their pencil to look at the company itself, their cash flow, and their balance sheet to see if they're a worthwhile investment moving forward. I would say one of the bigger trends that we've seen, Elliot, outside of the data space and the cell tower space, 5G rollout, has really been life sciences and lab space. So I used to live in San Diego. So Scripps was down there, and you continue to see this campus explode. And this is going on across the country. Now, pre-pandemic, they had a structural growth trend because think of the aging baby boom and all of the demand that was going into pharmaceuticals and things like that, research that goes into those types of things. Fast forward to COVID, and that's only super sped that up. So, there are pockets within the overall real estate space that we continue to see great opportunities in, not only here domestically in the US, but a lot of these trends are globally as well. And we can provide access and exposure to clients to get in front of some of these, what we feel are secular growth opportunities that have, are in the early innings now and a way to go.
So one more question here, Derrick, and that is the world of inflation. I'm going to get back to Janice Nugent on inflation because it's going to be a pressing issue all year for all of us here. And it could put a damper on the entire economy as the Federal Reserve tightens credit. And we've all been around in 1987 or 2000 when things were damp in 2008. There's a whole generation that has not seen that. So this will be new for a lot of people here. But inflation has to affect the real estate investment trust world. Is it a negative or a positive effect?
Again, there's nuance to this. So in some instances, it's a positive effect. Realistically, if you take a 30,000-foot view, I was looking at this last night. Historically, going back over 30, 40 years now, in a rising rate environment, REITs in general have had a positive total return 88% of the time. And now breaking that down, why would that be the case? So these REITs are backed by real assets. They own physical real asset buildings themselves, right? Secondly, they have tenants that are paying them cash flow. The majority of these leases in terms that they have with their tenants have CPI escalators within them. So the biggest determination of positive or negative performance in the REIT market is going to be GDP growth, because that usually determines the demand in which these property types may have or not have. So
Could you explain what that means? GDP growth?
Gross domestic product growth, economic growth within any economy. So REITs are correlated, so they move in the same direction as positive GDP growth about 0.8% of the time. So 80% of the time, if we have positive GDP growth in any economy, REITs are going to be positive. If we have negative GDP growth, they're probably most likely going to be negative 80% of the time. So that's one of the biggest determination.
They're more related to a federal report, than they are to the rising or shrinking stock market?
They're more related to the overall economic growth within any economy.
Okay. All right. Well, that's why we put them in portfolios, for diversification. So now, Janice Nugent, let me get back to you with one more question, as we're getting close to our time here. And that is that there are so many ways to finance. And majority of people do not buy their home for cash, although there's a silly trend out there, people knocking on doors, that just happens in my house, and said, I want to move into Lafayette. Here's X dollars in cash. Will you sell me your house? And I have to just shake my head like, is this really happening? But there's a lot of family money out there, and then there's a lot of money from offshore, particularly China, that's coming to California. And I imagine that trend is going to start slowing down also. So from financing standpoint and inflation, and again, I've been around when 15, I think my first house was 14 or 15% mortgage in New Jersey. Nobody wants to have a 14% mortgage, and you don't want to have an escalating mortgage that could do that. And maybe I should just get a mortgage that's interest only and figure out what to do in 5 or 10 years. Tell me how to go. If I'm a buyer, I'm a sophisticated buyer, I own a home, I'm ready to go to the next home, I'm going to stay in California and upgrade. Tell me what I should be looking at from a financing standpoint.
No, that's a great question. For right now, if you know that you're going to stay in your home for X amount of years, and you know that there's going to be deferred maintenance or work that you need to do, you can simply do a cash out refinance. You can take advantage of the fact that you've just gained at least 20% of equity over the past few years. You can use that equity in a cash out refinance. When you do that, the mortgage interest that you pay could be tax deductible. That's going to help you as far as affordability. Most importantly, you're going to plan ahead, right? So if you're in a situation where, let's go back to your discussion about, taking care of mom. I've got my mom who's going to be 92 next month. We're in a sandwich generation. We have kids in college and we have my mom at home. We're doing whatever we can with our home to make sure that it's comfortable for her, that it's ADA acceptable for her, that she'll be able to get around as she ages, right? There's a lot of people that don't know what to do because either they've just gone through divorce, and they don't know if they can keep the house for their kids or if they have to sell. They don't know, if someone dies or they're in a place where they have to age in place their spouse. It's a lot of women out there that have never even touched on what's going on with their mortgage. So when they lose their spouse, for whatever reason, they don't even know what to do. They may have a mortgage. They don't know who the mortgage company is. They may have never filed taxes. They have no clue about, what they could do with their mortgage. They have no clue even who to make the mortgage payment to. So for the people out there, get educated. Don't just let one spouse, be the finance guru of our family. Get to know what we're doing, put your ducks in a row. And whether it's a divorce or another scenario, that's really where the education piece comes up, right? But there's a lot of options out there for people. If they know they're going to live in that home and they know they have some work to do, you can finance it at under 4%. Most importantly, you're going to leave that money in the bank that you're investing for them, right? If somebody's getting an interest rate of 4%, but they're gaining 8% on the money you're making them, why not take advantage of that low cost interest rate and finance that, right? That's the perfect thing for somebody to do that have all these costs. I walk around my neighborhood through all of the pandemic. There's so many people that are putting on new roofs, getting new furnace, new HVAC. If people are working out of their home, they may need to expand a little, right? They may need to turn a den into, maybe something where their kids can homeschool if needed. Or maybe you're working from home, right? And this is your office and you need a quiet space. There's a lot of things that you can do with the equity in your house.
Great. So Janice Colby, one of our niches at our firm is divorcees or widows.
Great.
Women, in that case. We have great relationships there where we understand what's going on. And in your world, that means that they're either going to have to sell that house or downsize, or they're going to get a lump sum of cash and upgrade. So how do you help this select group of women that are also fragile because they lost a spouse or they got divorced and it was, we'll call it no fault divorce, but they lost a divorce and they're not really in a great place themselves?
Well, first of all, what we do is we look at the house and we say, okay, when did this event happen? In other words, if it's a death in the family, if someone has lost a spouse, one of the first things we really need to do is establish value on that house at the date of death, so that we know from a tax perspective what the gain might be. So we talk through the financial piece, but oftentimes I have spouses who are deciding they want to stay in the house, they want to go ahead and do some improvements, and I counsel them about what kinds of improvements they can make that will benefit them going forward without breaking the bank. So there are a lot of different ways that I counsel them. If they decide they want to sell it, sometimes they have to sell it in order to pay off a spouse that they're divorced from. So I walk through that process with them and say, okay, let's list the house, but we need to list the house. And do you want, again, it's the same process as you, Elliot, with you selling your house. What improvements do we think we can make? If we can't make improvements, then let me help you at least maybe get some refreshing done to the house, some paint, some cleaning. You'd be surprised how much, I call it putting lipstick on a pig. I've done that before. And in this seller's market, it's one of those situations where sellers are willing to overlook some of the blemishes on a house as long as they know what's going on.
Great. Well, we've been talking real estate. There's some really good answers. I mean, I'll tell you what I've learned in the last 35, 40 minutes here. And that is that, Janice Colby, that if I am somebody that wants to, I know my house is dated and I don't want to put any money in it. I don't want to dump it out to some organization where it says, we buy your house for cash, and they come in with some 50% of what I want to offer, but I feel like I'm stuck, so I've got to accept it. And that's why they do it, because they could turn it around and do it so quickly and make that 50%. It's my money and I just gave my house away. So I've learned I can go to somebody like you, Janice, at Keller Williams, and you can help me. And then I learned from you, Janice Nugent, is that there are about 4,000 different ways I could do the financing when I'm working with Janice Colby to buy the house. And that's really great. And Derrick, I've learned with you that, okay, so the real estate trust world is a diversified world. It belongs in portfolios. It's correlated to the quality of the economy and not so much the quality of the stock market, which means that even when we do have a little recession, it's a tight time and just ride it out. Maybe it's a buying opportunity for everybody here, and that look for a real estate trust that are not buying strip malls or not buying shopping centers or maybe even office buildings like ours, but they're buying things that data centers and nursing homes and hospitals and medical centers that, you know, they're just evergreen. They're going to keep making money. Did I say this properly, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So let me go back to you to do just a 1 minute, if I could, because this has been great. We've been talking about real estate here. Again, if you need to reach me, I'm at 925-314-8503 or Elliot, ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. We'll post this on at www.prosperityfinancialgroup.com. But we talked about a lot of great subjects, personal housing, personal finances, real secondary homes and financing, and making money in a real estate investment trust market. These are great topics. So let me just go back to you, Derrick, and I'll let you, since I went to you last on the first round, let me go to you first on the last round here. And that is if somebody wants to understand more about investment trusts, if somebody wants to get invested in them, how do they do that? And what do they need to know?
I would say first and foremost, the best resource they're going to find is you, Elliot. So reach out to Elliot direct. He knows the space. We talk about the space all the time. And then just one quick plug for, I think, a great educational website if you are interested in learning just more general education and data on the real estate investment world is NAREIT.com, NAREIT.com. Great resource for folks if they're interested in learning more about the investment space in real estate. And then outside of that, I'd obviously point you towards Elliot because he's been doing this a long time and knows exactly what he's doing with prosperity. So,
and Derrick, isn't that one that you just mentioned, the commercial I see on TV all the time for them, where they quote an actual return? I'm like, how do they do that? How do they get away with that? That's my go to jail card if I quote an actual return on this.
Yeah.
How are they able to do that?
You know, they're not under the same restrictions that we are with the governing body. So I can't explain exactly how they get away with it, but they are a great resource with regards to data, articles, any information and insight educational wise. I point to both Elliot and NAREIT.com. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Derrick. I appreciate you being here. And Janice Nugent, so tell me a little bit about your firm and what I need to know if we work together.
Yeah, absolutely. So Compass Mortgage Advisors, we're in Danville. I've been a mortgage planning specialist for over 20 years. My phone number is 925-683-0787. Real easy email, janice@janicenugent.com. And for me, Elliot, it's all about two important things, the education and the relationships. So if I can educate somebody, whether it's be on their first home, their next home, their forever home, if I can educate their family on how they can help them with gift funds. I do monthly homebuyer classes. I also do monthly investor buyer classes for those first-time investors. Once people have their education, they can make some really good financial decisions for themselves. And then it's building relationships with financial planners, CPAs, realtors, right? It's those kind of people. We become their financial team. And that's huge because when they get to that point where they need to, they need help, we're all there for them.
Great. Thank you, Janice. And Janice Colby, one thing I learned about you, and it was really great, is if I need somebody to hold my hand and walk me through this process, take my hand, young lady, because I think you're really good at that. And that's great. So I'll call you the behavioral specialist of real estate here. So Janice, tell us, you're with Keller Williams. I don't know anything about Keller Williams. I don't see signs for them. I see signs for other firms. Why Keller? Why you? And you've already told us a little bit more about you, but why don't you wrap that up in the last minute too?
I'll be happy to, Elliot. Thanks so much. Yes, I am with Keller Williams, and actually Keller Williams is the largest real estate company in the world. People don't realize that, but we have more agents worldwide than any other company. And I've been in real estate for over 22 years. I have worked really hard to make sure that I understand communication is such an important part of this, and listening to people is such an important part of this business. And what I'm good at doing is really getting into the person's mind as to what they want to do, whether it's a buyer or a seller. And I'm also so connected around the country that I have been able to connect. Just in the last 2 weeks, I've connected 4 individuals with realtors in other parts of the country, and one friend whose mother passed away and needed an agent in Woodland Hills in Southern California. And I am a one-stop shop. I have a team of people that I work with. I am able to handle everything in a real estate transaction from soup to nuts, whether it's help with a move out. I laughingly delivered toilet paper to a client recently because they were completely out. And with the pandemic, you know what that means. But, I tell them, I said, well, I am a one-stop realtor. But yes, you can reach me a number of different ways. Probably the best way is to call me at area code 925-989-9293. And I handle the entire Tri-Valley area all along the 680 corridor, 580 corridor in the East Bay area of San Francisco. And you can also email me at Janice, Janice, at janicecolby.com. So that's Janice at JANICECOLBY.com.
Well, great. This has been great. We've talked about homes, your primary home. We've talked about how to finance it, maybe apartment buildings, and then how to make money in the real estate business with portfolios. So this has been so educational. I guess I need to change my email around and have my first name and then my first and last name as second, and keep up with you ladies that seem to be a little bit more modern than me. And I'm gonna have to figure something out here. Thank you very much for being part of this. This is great, and we look forward to seeing you again. You've been watching Meet the Expert. We'll see you real soon. Have a great day, everybody.